Hi everybody, thanks. So my name for future reference is Stornaiuolo. So Amy Stornaiuolo, I'm at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm here today to talk to you about global innovation and local scale. So in our profoundly interdependent world, it's more important than ever for young people to engage in deep connected learning with others around the world. So the question is, how can we create opportunities for more young people to be connected globally? One of the ways that this has been accomplished in the past has been through organized person-to-person or pen-pal exchanges, which could have connected relatively few young people along very well-established pathways. But with the explosion of digital social media, young people now have more opportunities than ever before to connect to their global peers around shared interests in a more emergent fashion. However, the question about how we might facilitate this is this multidimensional process is really an open one. We can't map older, more individually oriented forms of connection onto these new spaces, nor can we assume that connecting people globally is a neutral activity. Instead, we need a new model for thinking about how to facilitate global connection for youth that takes into account people's histories, cultures, and emergent relationships, always rooted in particular ideological systems. So to that end, I think we must begin with a focus on the local. I would argue that the work of global connectivity is radically and quintessentially local, rooted in communities, lived experiences, and cultural and individual histories. Connecting across these local meanings, ideas, people, and contexts in essence requires scaling up through various interconnections and relationships, facilitated, of course, by new media technologies. This scaling process, as Blomert and Kanagaraja would remind us, helps us understand how people negotiate their positions in the world across space and time, but not across neutral spaces, in the context of hierarchy and power. So it's important to emphasize the active, agentive nature of this process. People participate in this activity of forging global connections across local experiences, meanings, languages, and contexts. So if we begin with the premise that this is fundamentally local work, scaled up through the active process of making connections, then we're seeking a model of global connectivity that puts dialogue, collaboration, and local knowledge at the center. So we can return to the question we began with. How do we create opportunities for young people to connect globally with others? And slightly reframe it now. How do we create opportunities for young people to participate in the act of connecting globally with others? So to describe one way of thinking about this question, I'm going to turn to a project I'm involved with called the Global Youth Media Collaborative, which is a partnership that brings together young people from around the world via a kind of online makerspace we're building. So beginning from a local community-oriented framework, our goals are oriented to social justice, youth production and youth voice, and access and equity. And the work grows from previous projects connecting youth globally. I want to turn now to one example from that work, from an international social network called Space to Create, to illustrate the active participatory process of connecting and scaling. This is about one young woman's story and how it scaled up as other people connected to it and to her. Bhakti's digital story that she created and shared on the network is one of great hope and optimism. In it, she reveals that her father was an alcoholic, and this revelation, coupled with other details of her life, resonated powerfully with others on the network. People in other parts of the world began sharing their own stories of hardship and fortitude, like this one from a young man in South Africa. Over time, these connections across the stories began to scale up as youth collaborated and turned towards taking social action. Youth formed activist groups to address issues important to them in their local communities and across their communities. This kind of scaling up began through forging connections rooted in local cultural histories and experiences. Connected learning, with its emphasis on production, shared purpose, and networked practices, offers a powerful framework for thinking about global connectivity now, especially how to create opportunities for young people to participate in making global connections. So at the Global Youth Media Collaborative, we're trying to imagine how to use a connected learning framework for global connectivity, scaling across local communities of practice. From this model, we can think about innovation as making social change and expanding opportunities and access. Youth can become global innovators by creating relationships and connections, expanding their networks, communities, and collaborations as they work towards taking action in the world. So thank you.